guys, sorry for the complete lack of makeup. Like, I know I'm barely wearing any, but basically I just wanted to film some more revision videos today, but I didn't want to, like, I just filmed a main channel video and I had to take my makeup off after it, and I just really couldn't bother to put like actual effort into my appearance. So I know I kind of look like a bald egg right now, and things are just not looking up in the appearance department, but that's okay because today I'm going to be talking about how to revise for languages. I've already done a video on the old GCSE specification, but this is going to be aimed more towards the new GCSE and the new A level. They're very, very similar, apart from that they're at different levels, obviously. I don't know a lot about the GCSE spec. I've had a quick look at the papers. I don't know too much. I don't really know what the topics are, but from what I've been doing with my mentees, I can kind of see that they're quite similar to A level, just not as difficult. So I'm going to go through all of the different skills. I'm going to do it in like skills instead of doing it like exam paper based, because there are a certain amount of skills that you need for languages, and then I'm just going to go through some extra tips and extra websites that I've kind of used with German and Spanish. Obviously I can't really help with other languages specific websites, but like resources for German and Spanish you can often find very similar ones for like French, Italian, whatever languages that you do. I'm not sure how helpful this will be for Russian either. Russian's obviously a bit of a different spec, but if you're on like AQA, LXL languages, then these skills you're going to need essentially. So I'm just going to go through all of the different skills and how I sort of revise for languages, because I feel like a lot of people find that difficult. I'm going to start with the one that that everyone hates, and it's vocab. So in my GCSE spec video I did say how important it was to learn the set vocab. From what I've seen at the new specs, there isn't a set list, and I know that that can be really stressful, myself included. I really struggle because I like to have a list of vocab, and I like to learn it, and I like to go in the exam and have all of that vocab on the list. That's not what you're going to get, especially at A level. What I've done this year, and what I've found really, really helpful, is I've had a set vocab list and an extra vocab list. So I have 6 topics, so I have essentially 12 sets. I have all of the vocab out of the textbook in one, like the vocab that AQA textbooks say is useful, and then I have any other vocab that I see when we're doing reading comprehensions in class. I'm doing the listening and I look at the transcript after, or I see in an article or in a song, like just vocab that I see that I don't know what it means. I Google it, I write it down, and it's there. So I tend to use either Leo Dictionary or Word Reference to put my vocab into a list, but I find that if you've got the vocab that's available to you out the textbook, so let me show you. For example, this is my German textbook here, and at the end of each topic there is a list of key vocabulary. And what I did is, for German I had to type it all up, but for Spanish I just used the vocab list on the teacher's Caboodle and just imported it into Quizlet. And I've learnt all of those, and it's best to learn them German to English and English to German, or French to English, English to French. Just do it intermittently, because sometimes if you try and learn it English to German, like you can't recognise it when you see it. You just need to try and learn it both ways, and I tend to just do vocab when I can. I do like a set a day, maybe like 45 minutes when I've got the time. In revision like periods I'll do like a fair bit, and I try and get through it all English to German, German to English. And I'm telling you now, vocab is like still so important at A level. It's not only important in your speaking because you need vocab, it's important when you're doing reading and listening comprehensions. It's so, so vital, and it's such a key aspect of language learning that you can't avoid doing it. And I know it's boring, and I know that you think you might be able to learn it just by like seeing it loads of times, but you're better off just actually making the conscious effort to learn it. I have Quizlet Plus, which means that I've got like the long-term learning thing, so I can just do like the terms each day and I'm slowly learning them all properly. But if you don't have Quizlet Plus, it doesn't matter. Just go through your sets, learn them, do like the cool like quiz games, the meteorite game, do anything. And if you really want to just do a holistic test, then you can learn the folder and do games based on the entire folder rather than specific topics. Just make sure that you're writing down all the vocab you see and you're learning the vocab all the time, keeping it fresh in your brain, and make sure that, you know, you don't see a word, think, oh, I'll know that. Like, just write it down, even if it's an obvious word. Just try and learn as much as you can, and don't get overwhelmed by it. There's always going to be a word on the exam that you don't know, and that's just how it is. But you'll learn better for next time, so vocab is definitely a key. Another key asset, which probably wasn't as important at the old GCSE, is grammar. I know grammar is just the worst for a lot of people. I personally love grammar. It's my favourite part of languages. I just really like it because my brain really likes sort of things that have a definite answer, but you can also explore different ways of doing things. So grammar is a bit of an annoying one. It's quite difficult to revise grammar, I find, because of course, you know, you've got the theory, but you need to know how to apply it. So what I tend to do is I have bought the old specification A-level grammar workbooks because AQA have not bought out ours, and they're bringing my Spanish one out the day after my AS exam. So, I mean, I'm doing really well. I feel like the first year of this spec is just being completely screwed over, if you'll pardon my French. But that's okay, because we've got to make the best of a bad situation. But I've been using this because essentially it is all the grammar that you need to know for AS. And I've just been going through it, doing the practice questions and things, writing notes from my textbook, from that. Just try and get as many grammar notes as you can together. And it's all good reading it through. You need to be like doing practice exercises. This is where you've got to be proactive and use your initiative, because AQA are only going to give you so many practice exercises. But if you go online, there are countless YouTube videos from German with Jenny, Learn German with Ania, Professor Jason, I think his name is. There's loads, absolutely loads. I'll try and link some down below. But they're so good for grammar. Like Spanish, you have to know your irregular preterite verbs, and there's like a song that I know from a YouTube video that means that whenever I see one, I can just do it really easily. And I don't know, for German, dative prepositions, there's a song, it's like außer bei Mitternachtszeit von zu. And I know all my dative prepositions because I've like been proactive, learned songs, make up songs, put posters around your room. Just make sure that you understand grammar so well, because I find that in my speaking especially it really helps knowing your grammar, because you get extra points. And my grammar is probably my best bit of languages because I find it interesting, but if you don't find it interesting, I know it can drag so much. But my overall tips would be do as many practice questions as you possibly can. Just find worksheets, everything like that. Ask your teacher for more stuff. Focus on your weak points. So for example, for me, that would be ser and estar in Spanish, por and para. I just can never get to grips with that, and when to use the imperfect and when to use the preterite. In German, it would probably be like, I don't know. I don't really think of any in German. The imperfect tense, maybe the irregulars, and just make sure you're focusing on the bits that you don't know more than the bits that you do know. It's all well and good learning your adjective endings, but if you know them already, then you're just wasting your time. So yeah, more practice makes perfect with grammar, really, and use the resources you've got available to you. So I was in Ireland, in Dublin. I just got back yesterday, and I saw these books for people at my level studying German and Spanish, and they're the complete grammar guide, so I thought this would be useful. I mean, it's just a concise little little book that goes through everything. So I bought these, but you can find so many books. I don't know if I can find these on Amazon. I'll try and find them for you. But look at the difference between the Spanish and the German one. Like, it's quite a lot. But yeah, you just have to be really proactive with your grammar. Just try and find as many grammar workbooks, worksheets, whatever. If your grammar's good, you'll find that everything else is quite easy for you. And don't freak yourself out about it. I know it's difficult, but it's something that you need to get to grips with, especially if you're doing it at A-level. Like, it's really, really important. Oh, and my final point with grammar, I know I'm talking about grammar absolutely loads, but go through your specification, because I looked at the specifications, and actually, especially for A-level, they have a list of everything you need to know. So when it gets near exam time and you're thinking, oh my god, there's so much grammar, just go through it and go through, tick the things that you're sure of, cross the things that you're not so sure of. Just make sure that you're, you know, confident on the bits that you need to be confident on. There are some things that you only need to recognise, and there are some things that you need to know how to use. So definitely brush up on your grammar a lot. Vocab and grammar are really the key aspects of language learning, I find. There's not really much else that you really need. A new addition to the AS paper and to the GCSE paper is translation. There's translation from English into the target language and from the target language into English. And at first I found this so daunting. I was like, I can't do it. I really can't. But I'm telling you now, if you learn your vocab and grammar and you also do loads of practice for translation, it's so much easier than you would think, and in fact it's actually a really good way of picking up marks. So the thing is, a lot of people freak out about is translating from English into the target language, and I personally used to proper freak out about it. So I thought, instead of freaking out, I'm going to be proactive. AQA have put some practice exemplar translations on the website. I've done all of those, so I'm kind of running out of ideas now, but you can use the old spec translations for AS. Some of them are relevant, like marriage, cyberspace. There are still like the relevant vocab. Also, if you go online, type in AS translation worksheets and like translation skills, you can do those. And if you're really stuck, you can use the textbook. They have translations in the textbook. They are more difficult though. I'm just warning you, the textbook's translations are way more difficult than you will ever get in an exam, and I've learned that from my mocks. But with translation, it's just a case of, you need to get the knack for, when you're translating into English, you need to make sure that you're not translating it word for word and you're translating it in a way that sounds right. And when you're translating into the target language, you need to make sure that you've got any idioms or like things that don't translate word for word into the target language. And they love irregular verbs, so make sure you know your irregulars, because they like to test on those all the time. I've noticed that's a common theme. And subjunctive in Spanish, they love the subjunctive. So make sure you kind of do the translations, get the common trends that AQA like to put in, and then just play to your strengths and just make sure you know what's going on. Another way of translating, which perhaps isn't as good a way of translating, it should just find like any translation sheets and make sure, and like let yourself look up the vocab. Like I did that with some of the A2 papers for AQA. I kind of like use them, but if I didn't know a word, I'd look it up, because it was like a different topic, so it's like topic specific vocab. That's probably not the best way to do it, but if you're really stuck, because I know there's not a lot, then definitely do that. I did check on the AQA website and they are bringing out a translation booklet, but not till May, so that's going to be useful for next year, but not for this year. So with translation, keep at it, learn from your mistakes. Again, as with grammar, practice makes perfect. You just need to do as many as you can, and I'm sure if you're really stuck, you can ask your teachers to give you some exemplar sentences that you can translate, give them back, and they'll mark them for you. But if you look, the stuff is out there. You just have to look very hard sometimes. Speaking. Right, so speaking is just a hot mess, isn't it really? It's obviously what everyone finds the most difficult, unless you are a native speaker. Then perhaps writing or like the actual analysis will be more difficult. Speaking is a funny one. For German, I feel a lot more confident than I do for Spanish. That's just because I've been doing German for 3 years more than I've been doing Spanish, whereas Spanish, my grammar is a lot better because there's less of it to learn. So, I mean, swings and roundabouts, you're going to have like better and worse areas. You just need to work on your worse areas. So with speaking, don't learn loads of set phrases. I know it can be really tempting to put like meine Meinung nach and all of this stuff in, or like yo creo que, or whatever, but you kind of need to like make sure that what you're saying sounds natural, because of course they're going to want you to sound sophisticated and weigh up the pros and cons and whatever. But if you kind of fill it with learned phrases, it doesn't sound natural, it sounds forced. And I watched a webinar from AQA because I wanted to tell you like good advice for your speaking. So this is more for AS than GCSE. But they said they're not fussed about you regurgitating facts and figures from all of the topics that you've studied. They just want to know that you have a really sound understanding of the topic. So I don't know, for example, festivals and traditions in Germany, they're not expecting you to know exactly how many people went to celebrate New Year's in Berlin. They just want to know how they celebrate it. Is it good for the economy? You know, what are the advantages and disadvantages? Do you think that traditions are becoming commercialised or whatever? They don't want you to be like 7,001 British people came. Like, they don't care. They just want to know that you can really develop your understanding. And that's the thing this year that's more difficult than ever, is that you need to know your topics. You can't just go in and say your opinion. You have to know what the influence of the church is in Spain, or how women are treated in South America or whatever. You need to know it. And what I've been doing over this half term is making cheat sheets. I haven't got one with me, but I've kind of made a sheet for each topic which just has the key information on that you need to know. The general trends, all of this sort of stuff, like the contextual, key vocab, things like that. Just summarise it, because they're not expecting you to have an extensive knowledge, but you need to know topics really, really well. So no like learned phrases please, and learn your topics, because there are a lot of marks available. I think it's 20 out of the 60 marks is how well you know your topics, so it's very, very key. Another thing to practice with speaking is your pronunciation, and I find the best way to do this is to listen to lots of Spanish music, do loads of listening, watch TV, whatever. You just get a feel for how it sounds in that country. And obviously there are accents, there are variations. They're not expecting you, like AQA say, they're not expecting you to be of native speaker standard, because that would be unfair. What you have to remember is that you're only a year on from GCSE, and it's a very big step up, so they're not expecting you to sound like amazing. Just do your best with the pronunciation, but don't be like, I don't know, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Oh, I can't think of anything. Like, oh no, but do you know what I mean? Like, don't say a word in like a really British way. Just don't be like la cama. Like, just doesn't really sound Spanish, does it? Like, just try and make sure you're not letting your British accent slip through too much, but if it does a little bit, that's okay. Grammar, again, speaking. I'm sorry, I know, grammar. I'm not going to say any more, because I know you get really annoyed with me talking about grammar, but it's really important for your speaking. They're a lot more lenient on the speaking than they are on the writing with the grammar, but they're still not very nice about it, so make sure that your grammar's really, really brushed up, and make sure that, you know, you're ready. And my final tip for speaking would just be practice. Like, speak to yourself. I know you won't know whether your grammar's correct, but just practice speaking. Find a pen pal in another country over Twitter or something. Obviously make sure it's safe, but you know, speak to them. I speak to a few people in Germany, a few people in Spain, and just having text message conversations can be useful, or you can have phone call conversations, or you can just talk to your teddy bear, whatever. Use the practice questions on the website and just see what you would say. Don't try and write down all your answers, because you've got 15 minutes. You're not going to have time to write down full answers for everything. Just practice speaking. If you have conversation classes at school like I do with German, definitely make the most of them, because they're really useful. And if you don't, like I do with Spanish, just try and find as many exemplar questions as you can, and just try and think what you would say. Don't worry too much. They're not like expecting you to be like a master proficient on Spanish cyberspace. They just want you to put your opinions across without sounding like you're reading off a piece of paper, and just really practice getting into it, because the more you practice, the easier it will come to you naturally. The last like concrete skill that you need is the literature aspect of AS. This used to not be on the AS, I think it was just an essay on a topic, but this year you have to do an essay on a film or a book. Now, I know this for me was like, this was the one that I was really daunted about. I love literature in other languages, like a lot. I find it way more interesting than like normal books, but I love literature anyway, so I like books, I like films, I like anything like that. And I was so worried about it. Don't worry about it. They want you to write 250 words, okay? That's like this much. It's not a lot. And even then, you will find you write so much more, because if you know the film or the book really well and you know the topics, you will have so much to say. And they're not expecting an English literature A-level polished style essay with like all of these really perceptive points. Just make your response personal and just say how you feel about it, and you're blessed in that they give you pointers. They'll give you 4 bullet points at AS, and they'll be like, here's this, here's that, here's this, here's that. What was that?
Is that so?
Oh! I think that was Siri. But yeah, just embrace it, really embrace it. It's such an interesting aspect of the course. In fact, it's probably the most interesting aspect of the course. I do Pan's Labyrinth for Spanish and The Lives of Others for German. I love both of the films, and they say so much about the time in which they're set. They're so amazing to study, because like for Spain, it shows you so much about like Franco's dictatorship and the attitudes of fascists and everything. And for German, it's very much showing you the suppression of culture in the east of Germany after you know, the wall went up and everything like that. It's so, so, so interesting. So just grab it with both hands and just embrace it. There's no set way to revise for this because it's really how you want to go about it. Obviously your grammar is really important, and obviously your film related vocab or your literature related vocab is really important. Here, set phrases are probably a bit better because, you know, you can structure your argument, but really learn some quotes, do your vocab and your grammar, and just let your personal response take hold. If you've watched the film or read the book enough times, you'll know it well enough that when you get a question you can just spew some analysis out. I would show you one of my exemplar essays, but I don't really have any. It's probably my best part out of like all of the things. I really, really enjoy literature and I find it really easy to engage with. If you struggle a bit more and it doesn't come as naturally to you, don't worry. I really don't think that they're going to be asking for amazing, beautiful, polished essays because you have like 45 minutes to write it. I will keep an eye out on the AQA website for exemplar essays that they might put on there because they haven't really given any indication yet, but just don't worry about it and just enjoy it. Enjoy the literature aspect because I feel like that's the most rewarding aspect out of all of it. So learn some quotes, maybe put them on Quizlet, some key quotes, but really you don't need that many quotes either. But I learned for my mock, I learned like 40 quotes, how to write them in Spanish, and I found it was so useful because I had like relevant quotes for every single point that I was making. And just enjoy it, you know, just enjoy it. Please don't worry about it. It's really, really not that bad. And my final tip, and I think this is probably the most important tip, is you can do all of these methods. You can like work through your textbook, do all the worksheets, learn your grammar, learn your vocab. But I really think the most rewarding thing and the most interesting thing about languages at A-level is that as your language skills grow, you can immerse yourself in the language so much more. And actually that helps your language skills grow. So Spotify, listen to Spanish music, listen to German music. I love Spanish music so much, especially. I listen to it all the time. In fact, it's probably all I listen to now. It's so useful actually because you pick up words, you really do. Like, I know the irregular subjunctive form of saber because my favourite song is Quiero que sepas. I don't know if any of you have heard of it, but it's my favourite song, and it really actually helps. Like, you pick up so many things that you wouldn't necessarily have thought to pick up. Also, watch films in language. You don't need to watch it with language subtitles, but I do. I watch it with the Spanish subtitles or the German subtitles and just try and get the general gist of what's going on. I find that's really interesting to do. Read articles in Spanish, German, watch the news in German, set your phone to German and Spanish or French or whatever you do. What else do I do in my free time? Wow, don't I live a cool life? Read books please people, read books in the languages. If you really need to have like a book with a translation in the back, then do it. Don't look up every word, just enjoy the literature experience. What else? I can't think of anything else that I do. Music, watch TV in the language. Oh yes, definitely watch TV. I watched the Spanish lottery, the one that they do every year, and that was so much fun to watch, and it's really good for your language skills. Just engage with it, watch like interesting series and things. You can watch like documentaries in Spanish about Franco's dictatorship. It's going to be so helpful for your studies, but also really helpful for your language skills. So just immerse yourself in it. Languages are the most rewarding subjects ever, and I just love them. I love them, love, love, love them. I get really excited about languages, I'm sorry. But they're so rewarding, and I really feel like you can get so much out of them. Don't feel like it's all methodical. Like, you don't need to know everything set in stone. Like, no native speaker is going to hate you if you use the wrong adjective ending or whatever. They'll know what you mean. But just play the exam game. Play to the spec. Please just learn the spec. It's so important. And just enjoy it. Language is the best, and you're never going to be perfect at languages. No one's ever going to be perfect unless they're a native speaker. But more you do, the easier it becomes, the more vocab you get. It snowballs, it really does. And if you're watching this at the start of the year and you're thinking, oh my god, I need to drop this right now, I can't do it, stick at it, because my language skills have come on so much since September. It's a joke, and it's only February. So keep at it, enjoy it, because these are like the most fun subjects in my opinion. And yeah, don't stress and enjoy it. And I know this has been a really long video, but there are just so many tips. I could give you so many more, but I need to stop this video now because it's like half an hour long. But yeah, languages are great. cool. I will see you next week with another revision video, which is probably going to be maths because I'm going to film it right now. So yeah. Okay, bye.